Jack here, owner of Hockey Alley, bringing you back hockey history. Stories forgotten, stories that you remember, or stories that you haven't heard about. Today I have from the Buffalo Sabres, and he also played with the New York Rangers, NHL player Mike Hartman. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Very good, thanks. Thank you for coming on and talking to me on my channel.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad I could do it. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, so you started your hockey career juniors in the OHL, correct?
I did. I started in Belleville with the intentions of, from there, you're supposed you think you're going to get drafted, you're rated high, and it didn't quite work out that way. I gave up playing college hockey. One of the teams that was almost it was a guarantor. It was going to Michigan State. Playing Sean Walsh was the assistant coach, and then midway through my tier 2 junior, he ended up going to Maine. And then I met an agent along the way, and to make a long story short, talked about maybe playing in the OHL, and it almost did not work out. So we'll say it that way. But for the most part, played in Belleville and North Bay.
And in North Bay, you had a lot of players that made it to the NHL from one team. Was it the chemistry or the coaching?
Both.
Both.
First of
Okay.
all, Bert was the hardest, toughest, one of the best coaches I ever had, because if it wasn't for him, I never would have played
Wow.
beyond. And we had Darren Turcotte, who was a real talented player, but we had also other guys that were talented as well. Like Nick Kipriel scored, I think, 70 goals, and he wasn't even drafted. Todd Ellick was playing university hockey, and Todd ended up being a 20-year pro player. He was one of my best friends, actually,
Oh.
going back years ago, too. Oh, my gosh, Dave McElwain, Bill Holder, Adam Burt.
Yeah.
And Burt had us – back then, he had us at the rink at 5 a.m. training in the morning.
Wow.
and boxing, yeah. We had Trey Crowder. Let's not forget about him, too. I'm probably forgetting a couple guys, but what a group we had, and just even the players that were not drafted, we had good leadership. We had just an overall, like, a really strong group of players with a coach that the only coach I ever know that sat at the back of the bus so he could see everything that was going on.
That's a first.
At the back of the bus, so everything you did, everything you ate, everything you said, he's watching. Those long road trips where some junior teams, you got players doing, in Belleville, I know it was interesting, but you have players doing things at a young age that is immature, whether it's, guys sleeping and you're putting shaving cream in his face. Nothing in North Bay, because Bert could see it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tough coach. That's first. I've never heard of that before. Usually the coaches sit in the front of the bus, and the leaders of the team sit in the back of the bus. That's how it usually works.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was, I'll tell you one quick little thing. The funny thing is, so Nick Kiprios and I we trained pretty hard like everybody else, but we ate really well. So usually in junior, you'll have pizza. But sometimes we'd be, Swiss chalet. But Nick's mother, they owned a Greek restaurant, so we sat together all the time, and the players would have pizza, and then as they were going to sleep, we had Bert knew what was going on. He once asked me, "You going to share that with everybody?" I said, "Well, it's not my restaurant, So we'd have really good Greek salad, like chicken kebab. We had everything, and because Nick, we would play everywhere. It was close to Toronto, between Guelph and Kitchener and London. Nick's parents would go to the game, and we would get sandwiches, and I'd sit with Nick, and I'd be eating my healthy sandwich while everybody was eating crap. But anyways, that's kind of selfish. That's a selfish thing. But for the most part, I don't regret it.
No, not at all. And then you went to Buffalo, so you played for the Buffalo Sabres. And
I did. Yeah. I didn't get drafted out of Belleville. I got traded. I was going to quit hockey, actually, right after Belleville. But I was persuaded to go back. I went back, and thank goodness I got traded to North Bay. And got drafted. I didn't even go to the draft that year. I got drafted by the Buffalo Sabres as a 19-year-old. And Jimmy Carson's father called us. He was like second overall that year in the NHL draft. I think Joe Murphy went first. And we got a call from Jimmy Carson's dad, with like really a classy thing. We played in Detroit a little bit together for CompuWare. And he said, "You just been drafted by Buffalo." I couldn't believe it. I had no idea I was even going to get drafted. And
Wow.
I went to Buffalo and I went to training camp and made the team right in training camp. Played, I got to think back. I think I played 15 games and then got sent to the World Junior team. And then in March got called up for 3 more. But what a great, that was like, 1 year you're not drafted and the next year you're playing in the Montreal Forms. Kind of, it was not real, surreal for me.
You were there with a friend of mine, Todd Henderson. He was there around that same time. He's a goalie. Do you remember him? He was in tryouts.
Yeah, that's going back. Yeah,
Oh.
I remember. I think I do remember. Where did he play? He played junior hockey, I believe, right?
He played in the Western Hockey League, and he won both of his exhibition games, but he still got cut because it's Grant Fuhr and Dominic Hasek on the team.
Oh, no, I wasn't there at that
you
time.
weren't at that time. Okay.
We had Tom Barrasso, Darren Pupa, and we had Larchuk after that. We had Cloutier.
You're talking 87 then, 87, 88.
No, that they weren't. Yeah, 87, 88, I was there, but
Okay.
But Hasek was not.
No,
there.
Hasek came in the early 90s then. Oh, okay. So he was in training camp, but he didn't stay. He played 2 exhibition games, but still got cut. He had a shutout and 1 goal against, still got cut. It can happen.
Yeah. We had Tom Barrasso and
Yeah. And you played for Scotty Bowman. How was that to play for him?
well, as a real young player, you're naive to things, but to look back and he gave me my first opportunity. It was. Now I look back on that and say, hey, wow, I played for Scotty Bowman, one of the most winningest coaches ever to be in hockey. And so, yeah, it was a great experience. We had an older team. We had, I think Clark Gillies and Wilf Paymont and Billy Height. We had even Phil Russell coming to training camp without a helmet on. I mean, it was like, Gilbert Perreault. And they had there was a couple injuries during training camp. And it opened the door for sure. So to play for him as a rookie and looking back on it, it was just a great experience. You never knew where you stood. You could think you're doing well and you're not doing so well. And then, the best thing is when he says nothing to you. That's what the player said. I said, well, he hasn't talked to me in a week. He goes, perfect. Then you're okay.
So if he's not talking to you, then that's good. Okay. Take it.
Yeah.
Who were they looking up to most? Was it Gilbert Perreault in the dressing room, or was it a lot of veterans like when you?
Well, Lindy Ruff and Mike Foligno. We had Joe was just kind of quiet. It was, to me, it was even great playing with him. But we had a team of veterans. Like Clark Gillies came. He was like a hero of mine growing up. So we had a good group of older veterans. The team didn't do that well, actually. But it was great playing with them. We looked up. I mean, we had a team of leaders like Dave Anderchuk, John Tucker was in there. I mean, we had a really good group. Mike Ramsey, the gold medal for the U.S. team. Got to go on and on of good people, and they made it really easy for me. I'll never forget that. I was 19 years old, and I remember Mike Ramsey asked me, "Hey, let's go have lunch." I said, "Perfect." I was, young kid still, kind of in awe of the whole situation. And then, it was a good experience.
Did you have any favorite arenas that you played in over the years?
I always liked Montreal, but never did well there. They were so good defensively, and me being a fourth line player that tries to get the puck deep and make hits, and it was tough. But Montreal was a great building to play in. Chicago Stadium back then. I always liked Joe Louis to go home, play in front of the family. I love the odd in Buffalo. I mean, Madison Square Garden. Looking back, there's some Maple Leaf Gardens playing there. It's kind of weird. I played junior hockey sitting on the bench for Larry Mabity. Didn't play much. He had me playing defense for the Belleville Bulls, defense and forward, playing a little bit. And then not even a year and a half later, I'm playing on a line with Gilbert Perreault, in Maple Leaf Gardens. So it was like 1 minute you think you're done, and like you blink your eye, and the next minute you're playing with, Gilbert Perreault. Even though he was older, it was he was
Still.
stuck with me on the fourth line.
I mean, just it's amazing how hockey works. It's an amazing story, and you made it. That's what matters. You made it, and millions of people tried to make it. It's only about the size of a town that make it, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you won the Stanley Cup in 1994 with the Rangers. And what made your team so good that year?
Well, again, if you look back, and we had, and I'll mention the other guys, but we had like the Edmonton Oiler, like leaders on our team. Mark Messier, who you don't even have to say another word about that.
No.
Total hero of mine too as a kid, and Kevin Lowe, and we had McTavish, we had Tikkanen. He brought energy all the time, and Buka Boom and Adam Graves, and we had a good group. And we also had Mike Gartner there that year. He got traded, but then Glenn Anderson came, who he's another great player. That you don't forget about Steve Larmer, Zubov, wow. Leach. We had an all-star team.
Yeah.
Our fourth line guys won Stanley Cups, like Greg Gilbert. We had the toughest guy in hockey, Joey Koser. We had a great goalie in Richter, and a great backup goalie, Glenn Healy, who was the number one goalie most places. And just Eddie Olchuk, who scored, I think he's the only American to score, I don't know if it was 5 consecutive years of 30 goals. I don't know the stat, but you can get the gist of what I'm saying. And he didn't play much because of things. Phil Bourque won Stanley Cups, didn't dress. Doug Litzler was a captain of, I know I'm forgetting people, but he was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks and came to us as a player that filled in and out. And just what a great group. And everybody, there was no egos on that team. There wasn't any jealousy. Everybody looked after each other. Even a guy like Greg Gilbert, who I'm not saying I competed with him, but there's only 4 spots, and he's on the left side, and my buddy Kiprios, we're going in and out of the lineup together. But even a Gibby, a guy would try to help you and talk to you and ask how things are going. I learned what it meant to win a Stanley Cup. I think it was more of an education than anything else. And I only played 30 plus games that year. Sat out a lot, got hurt a couple times, but was a player they called the support player, in and out of the lineup. But I look back, I played 35 games on this all-star team with no salary cap, and I have zero bitterness. In fact, people talk bad about Mike Keenan, and I have a wonderful relationship with him to this day. And Neil Smith, I thank both of them. I said, thank you for not getting rid of me. So, and let's not forget about Mateau, who's a great friend of mine now too, and the goal he scored. And So to this day, we're very close. We do a lot. I go back and do a lot with the Rangers, and
nice.
Yeah, they just treat you like with class. So I can't say enough good things. We don't have enough time to get into how what kind of people they are.
So how was it? So you had your best friend on the team too, Nick Kiprios, which is cool. How did that happen? Like, just he was there or before you, or you got there before him?
Well, I joked with him. No, I was there, and then they traded him from Hartford to us. He scored 20 goals, I think, the year before. And I said, "Oh, great, another left winger." And it happens to be Nick. But we would spend a lot of time together. But we were competing for that spot. And some nights I would dress, some nights he would dress. Sometimes we would dress at the same time. And but we spent a lot of time together. It was funny because we sit around just telling stories, and a bunch of us would do that. And there was no holding back. We had an unwritten rule. We weren't afraid to speak our mind to each other, which was fun.
Yeah.
Like I remember Glenn Healy, we were in Washington, and he wanted to go to the Holocaust Museum. He asked me to go because we were playing that night, but our hotel was not too far away. And he said, "You want to come?" I said, "Oh, no. I'm dressing tonight." He goes, "You're only going to play 5 minutes, maybe 6, maybe 3. So really, you can give it 5 minutes." But it was all in good. It was, he wanted me to go with him. And I joke with him to this day because it was just straight up guys getting along and having a lot of fun together.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Mike Keenan, what was he like as a coach? A lot of people hate him, like you said, but there's some that like him.
Well, I like him as a person. But some people didn't like him. I don't want to speak for other people, because you said it, but he's not. It's not easy to play, and that was his philosophy back then. Like, I remember there was times where he would pull you aside, or you're on the ice in front of your teammates, and he would say, "I want you to tell us the what's going on in the standings right now. I want to know." And so you had to know. You had to be on your game. So to me, I look back on it, and it was like, yes, he was hard. He was hard on us, but we won. And and there were times where people, you read it and heard it, so he would say things, but I was fortunate to be there all the way through. So every time I look at it, I could have easily been moved, or I don't know. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't think of it like that," but I do. So I can't say anything bad about him like that. But yeah, he was difficult on some and tough, and he had his battles with people. He did, and maybe it wasn't appropriate sometimes for what was said, but overall, with the way he had me playing, and I played a really strong game in one dress, or I'd make a mistake in one play, and you were always on your toes or on your heel. You always were ready to play. So, especially if you're a bubble player.
Yeah, I heard that he was strict, and he's probably looking out for his job too. So he has to do what he has to do to win, as a coach.
Yeah, people don't like John Tortorella, but he was one of my favorite people. He was my assistant coach in Buffalo.
So you played for him too? Okay.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I played for Terry Crisp, Rick Dudley, all the easygoing guys. But they, I played for Ted Sater. I like all my coaches pretty much. I played even for Bob Hartley and Hershey in the minors, and people might say a lot about him as well, but he also won. Tortorella won. I mean, they all have something in common, right? Terry Crisp won a Stanley Cup. I played for Phil Esposito in Tampa, and Terry Crisp, and he won. So, you could say what you want, but when they won. I mean, no matter what you could say indifferent or bad, he's won Stanley Cups.
Yeah, and then you had Mark Messier, that Game 6 where he said, "We're going to win tonight." Was there a lot of pressure on you guys? Or, how did you feel when he said that?
No, I didn't. Don't even think about it.
No.
I remember. No. I didn't dress that. I didn't dress there, but I was there down in the room, and we just knew. I remember, this is what I remember. I remember we lost, and we were going into New Jersey, and it was pretty quiet in the room, and Kevin Lowe said, "What's wrong? Guys, what else would you rather be doing? We just have to win the next one." It wasn't because those guys have done it before, and then some of us haven't. Like Brian Noonan was there, and we had great players on that team. Zubov, nobody knows. I think Zubov led our team in points that year. I'm almost sure.
He did one of the years as a defenseman. I think that was the year, maybe.
Yeah. So we had even though we had great players, like Steve Larmer was a really laid back guy. It was the people that we had that was. Mark Messier didn't have panic on his face.
No.
So that's what I think. Gosh, if we took anything in, and then Kevin Lowe, how he calmed things. He says, "What's going on? Why are we down? Let's go. Okay, let's go have a nice meal tonight, and let's get ready to play." Okay,
Wow.
perfect. So
Wow.
when you have, yeah, you don't really. Those are the things that people really don't see. I mean, it's
No.
he may have calmed everybody down, and those they just another day. Craig McTavish, okay, another day. Let's go. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Glenn Anderson. You learn from those guys that have done it so many times. You're right. So,
That's great teammates. Wow. And the 1994 finals was the best finals I ever saw. There hasn't been a finals like that one since. That was a war.
yeah, yeah. No, it was. It was. I remember we were in Vancouver, and they were lighting the city on fire, which is to me, it's one of the most gorgeous places in one of the most gorgeous cities in North America by far. I love it. I love going there. Just in that time of year was gorgeous. And I remember we were escorted out by the police to the airport. Our team, we had our own plane, and we saw stuff. They were ready they would have tipped the bus over if the police weren't there on our
Wow.
way to the airport. But I couldn't believe that. But it was just the whole thing was intense. Madison Square Garden was unbelievable. Playing in Vancouver was playoffs for them, and it could have gone. I mean, no one really says it, but man, it could have gone either way. One right. I mean, I wonder what people would have thought if we didn't win. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But it was a really tight series. They had great players, and just a tough series altogether for sure.
Yeah. Who was your toughest opponent that you played against, skill wise, or just a player that was very tough to go against?
Well, in my day, I played a lot in what was called the Adams division,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lineup against Cam Neely, and he was hard to play against. And even, believe it or not, like Claude Lemieux was tough in Montreal because we played. Remember, we would play the Adams division games, and
Yeah.
we'd play in Boston and Montreal a lot, and Hartford and Quebec. Like, so that was tough. Like, so we played against them so many times, and lining up against them they were just overall strong players. And there's a lot of great players. I mean, Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. I mean, special players. But when you mean strength and even like nastiness too, like Tocchet was up there.
Rick Tocchet.
Yeah. So that was,
Yeah.
to me, that was tough.
Yeah, and my channel is all about hockey sticks. I talk about hockey sticks over the years. What kind of hockey sticks did you use over the years?
Well, there's a story to this too. So I used what I used then. I mean, I like the wood stick. That's what we had. I had Cohos initially. They were custom made. It was perfect for me. But over the years, then what happened? I used Easton. Actually, Brian Leach took care of me. I think he was getting paid without getting into details. And the rep was in the room, and he told the rep to take care of me. And I ended up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no endorsements. But I ended up getting paid and got treadmills and all kinds of sporting. I filled my house with equipment. So I used Easton. And then later on, Don Luce, who actually drafted me, his son was Scotty Luce, who's now, I think he's in the NHL somewhere with a director of player personnel, maybe Florida or somewhere. No, I'm sorry, he might be in Vegas, actually. But he was doing branches, and he says, "Will you try these?" I said, "Sure." So they took my model, and I looked to feel, and I started using branches. So I don't think they're around anymore, but those were great. Loved them. I mean, they made my stick perfect, and started using those.
They had the rhino wrap on the bottom of the blade, which held up good.
Yeah. No, exactly. Right. Yeah, they held up good, and I had my sticks just enough to not be illegal, because I needed, like, when that puck came around the boards, I was more of a guy that played on the wall. I needed that, so I had a pretty big paddle, as you could say, and they were made really strong. They were great, really strong.
You didn't use a replacement blade, so you used a full stick. So you didn't. They also
No.
made blades.
I had those. I had with the replacement blades.
Oh, got it. Okay. And so you used the Easton, the silver shafts, the ones that did they give a lot, or were they very stiff? Those. The ones you.
They were stiff, those, so I didn't like those. But they had a black one, remember, that had gold in it?
Yeah.
I used that, and I ended up using that quite a bit as well.
They were a lot lighter than the wood sticks for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple times, that we'd have, I'd always want to, back then I always wanted to be consistent with sticks, but sometimes, I don't know how, remember a company called Fontana, if you follow stick.
Oh, Fontaine. It's the one
Fontaine.
that's graphite. Yeah.
So I just put my Easton blades in there, and I said, well, this felt good, so I tried it, and so I use that as well. But yeah, good. Yeah. You must. How do you know your sticks so well?
I collected for many years shafts. I had about 350 shafts in my collection, and I have videos on those. The Fontaine was probably the very first company that came out with graphite. Them and Innovative.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was. They were located in Sacramento, actually. Fontaine.
Yeah. They were a California company.
And then Louisville bought them out.
Okay, so I had no idea. Yeah. I remember.
You used that, and then Robitaille used them too. There's a few guys that used them, but then they got bought out by Louisville, and then the rest is
Well, you might remember the sticks. There was groups not paying the NHL licensing fee, so we had to blacken them out after a while. They had to paint them, so we couldn't show the brand of the stick. Yeah. Because,
One time, Brian Leach, I think they stopped the game to cover his skate. He was using graph skates, and they stopped the game. I said, "What's going on?" And then I see the referee go there, and they put something like black tape on the skate just because they gotta cover the name.
You might be right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you have a website. What do you do exactly?
Well, I have a business that I've been in the coaching business for over 17 years now, coaching Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies to athletes. And then still do a little coaching, but we have a website. It's a free app, and it's even on the website, called the healthymindset.app.com. So HEALTHYMINDSETAPP.com. Healthy Mindset app. And what you do is you go there, and I have a course in there, and I have meditation, and it's more of an educational site to teach mindfulness. It's all free. So we're just been changing things to do that. I used to have an app, and we charged, but we have over one company is putting 1,000 employees onto it. So being into that business, but I've been really in the assessment business, which is kind of confusing for people. I had behavioral assessments, which is like a values-based assessment that we certify people in and use. So that was a main part of my business. So now we still do some assessments, but what we do is we give the app away for free.
And is the first one that you mentioned, the mindset, can anybody use that, or is it just for the players? Is it for anybody?
No, anybody.
Anybody. Doesn't matter the age.
Anybody. Yeah, send it out to everybody. We want people to use it. It's a way that we want to give back. And the book is on Amazon. I even have an audio book out there with it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make it into a program for free. Mm-hmm. And it's right on the website.
Mike, what I'll do is I'll tag it on in the description so people can find it. How's that?
Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. Incredible stories. I mean, I never knew a lot of this, and really appreciate your time. It's an honor to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great talking to you again. Great. And looking forward to catching up soon for sure.
You got it. Have a great day.
I get you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.